Hi, it's Colleen Schmidt from Divination Counseling Service. Today I'm going to present the Mars Ingress into Aries and also the Venus Ingress into Taurus. Now, what I want to point out here and why these are significant is that Mars and Venus will both rule the signs that they're approaching right now. They're approaching these signs. As a matter of fact, the Mars ingress started last evening, and the Venus ingress happens 4 days from now. So these ingresses are literally within 1 week. And what's happening is that Mars is going to a sign where it's going to be very, very strong because it rules the sign of Aries. And then the same is going to be true when Venus ingresses into Taurus, where it too will be in one of its strongest locations and best able to really be itself. So both of these planets are going to be in signs where they're able to truly and fully be who they are. The irony is that you and I and everyone else in the world is going to be living with these ingresses this week. And it's going to mean different things to different people. We are all going to be affected. But some of us will be more directly affected than others. And in some cases, the actual ingress chart is going to affect people. And in other cases, it may be when the planet transits close, these two planets actually transit closer to something that affects you and your own natal astrology. But what's always interesting about what's going on in the skies is that somehow, whether directly or indirectly, we're all going to be affected, regardless of where you live in the world. Now, as I come in to show these charts to you, I am going to make note that they are for Washington, D.C., which means if you happen to live in Australia or Portugal or England, or your chart's going to look a little different because the moment of the ingresses will be affecting those charts. So today, when I get to this work, and I'm going to look at this work very generally, actually, I'm going to try to stay away from, although it's always hard for me, the house angles and the houses themselves, because if you were born in a different place in the world because of longitude and latitudinal changes, you are not going to have a chart that looks exactly the same. And it would be a wise thing for you to go to your astrology software and pull up the new these new ingresses in your area, and what does the chart look like? Okay, because it's going to hit at a certain time, but that certain time is going to be different regardless, depending on where you live. Now, before I begin and pull up the two charts we're going to be looking at, I want to say thank you for watching the video. I want to say a big thank you to all of my subscribers. And our numbers are growing small. I should say we're small. It's a slow grow, but we are growing. So thank you so much for your support. If you're not a subscriber, I hope you'll consider becoming one. And always like, share, comment in particular, because I love hearing from you. But algorithms like the shares. So with that said, I'm going to go in and first, ironically, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Mars chart because it actually began yesterday. Now, since it was, I do have it, I think it's 7:30 in the evening. It means that in England, for example, it would be 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So adjust your timing for where you live. Okay, so this event happens in the skies, but because we live in different longitudes and latitudes, the time is going to be different, regardless, depending on where you live. Even if you're in the United States, for us, it might be 7:30 in the evening because I'm born on the East Coast, or I live on the East Coast, and my chart that I'm doing is for DC, which is the capital of the country. It's not far from where I live, actually, right now. I could drive there and be there in 90 minutes or something. But if you were born in California, or you're looking at charts for California, then you know the deal. You're going to be 3 hours different. If you're in Utah, at least 2 hours different. So you're going to have to adjust this regarding finding out how it works where you live. Okay, so where you live is relevant. So with that, let's jump in and look at one of the most amazing things that I picked up about this chart, the Mars Ingress. I didn't tell you about that yet. I want to show you. So let's take a look at it. So we're back, and the way this works is, we're going for that 0, 0 moment. It's about 7:30 in the evening. Like I say, I think in England actually it'd be 1:30 because I think there's still, now it says 4 hours. So I'm going to go with the 4 hours. So 3 o'clock then in England. So, or the universal time. But what I found so fascinating about this particular chart was, come on down, let's look. Here's Mars. Here's the moon. It's only 59 minutes away. And here's Jupiter at about 2.5 degrees away, which ironically to almost every astrologer out there, that's in aspect. Not is it only an aspect to the moon itself, where you can go as wide as 10-degree orb, but it's also going to be an aspect to that Mars. So I wanted to first look at what that means. And this is going to probably be in effect regardless of where you live in the world. So here's a scenario where these things are going to happen in the skies. And though the outer part, this chart may look different depending on where you live, it's really interesting that these three factions came together for this particular ingress chart. Now, as I've explained a number of times when doing an ingress chart, that there is an effect of the ingress chart that will reside over this Aries Mars the whole time it's going through its journey through Mars. That means for Mars, I think it's about 6 weeks that this will be an influence for us, this particular chart. The same thing will be true when I look at the Venus ingress, which we'll do in a minute. I'm going to try to get them both done today. So here, with these three, I have a couple of notes that are well worth looking at. First of all, because of the Jupiter. So let's bring Jupiter in right away. That there is some really good feelings, and that overall most of us will be really generous with other people. So this is a time when we will be or can be more accepting, more spiritual, all of those things that can make us feel better. Okay. Now, what's interesting is that Mars and Jupiter are two very, very different energies. And Mars tends to make us irritable. Well, basically what's happening is that we're very restless, okay? Mars is a lot of energy, and it's really an energy without a brain, I always like to say. And it's in its strongest position, okay? And so what that means is that not only are we really restless, that's what that, it's like kind of irritable, but it's more of a restlessness. And it's talking about how it's not a great time to have heavy discussions. That we will notice that people are they're so impulsive and they're so aggressive that you get into these heavy discussions, and what happens is that one person tries to trample over the other person, for gaslight them, if you will. Gaslighting. Look for that. Look for that, not just from politicians where we expect it, but look for that amongst your colleagues and friends. That when you don't agree with them, they're going to try and gaslight you. That is the nature of this particular Mars, particularly when it comes with a very righteous Jupiter. Because Jupiter is not very good when it's righteous. And it could become righteous because of the Aries energy, and also because of the conjunction to Mars. Okay, so just kind of finding my place here again. It's also something that can make us internally and externally stronger because there's more energy to play with. So, yes, physically a great time to take on a physical task. You can really accomplish a lot with this energy. As a matter of fact, to stay focused on a task, to use the energy either for sporting competitions or for laborious tasks is probably one of the best ways to use this particular energy. There's a lot of self confidence with this energy. We just have to be careful. This line up there, we have to be careful of just being arrogant because that's what can happen when self confidence is not kept in check or in balance. There's also this tendency to be too impulsive, and this is going to be particularly true with our actions, which can make us accident prone. So, again, that lineup can be good because it can also indicate fortunate action. Fortunate action. Mars is action. Jupiter can bring us expansion and fortunate energy, and that is possible, but it has to be with us keeping things in balance. Otherwise, we're going to create a lot of resistance for whatever it is that we want to do because we're also very snappy to other people. So we have to be very careful of that. Basically, it represents things like irrational or displaced anger. And that is something that we do have to be careful of. It's like we're really triggered emotionally right now because of the moon energy to Mars. Okay, so realize that's right there as a trigger. And again, be careful with arrogance and confidence that gets carried away. This this is a time when we need to be very vigilant of being overly confident in ourselves, and the tendency is not to just overindulge, which is definitely in there. Overindulging is way in there. We have to be careful. There's that Jupiter energy again. But also overdoing it, particularly physically, because you have all this energy. So you think you can, well, what can happen is not only accidents, but you can really do yourself in health wise. It is the confidence, however, that really does help us to succeed. So that is really important to keep in mind. My notes are not in very good order here. So basically, it's a time too when we can be emotionally secure, and in that we're able to be very honest in our expressions of ourselves, and we're able to be very clear in our ability to express ourselves. Home improvements, big time important right now, and maybe one of the best ways to utilize this energy. Work in the garden, people. Do your spring cleaning. That's what this is asking us to really do. Make that time that you're working with this Mars a time for domestic improvements. The other thing that you can deal with during this time is that connection of the past to who we are today. It's really credible right now, very important. And it's telling us that we're able to do that. We're able to look at our past and say, wow, that's how I am who I am. That's what made me who I am today. So that's actually a really cool thing, I think. We just have to be careful that we're really taking care of ourselves health-wise, that we're eating properly, that we're feeding ourselves because of all of the energy that we're expending. You want to make sure that you're eating in a very nutritious way. It is for some of us, vegetables are beginning, our lettuces are coming up, our radishes are coming up. You would be very wise to begin eating from those gardens and help replenish yourself during the time. The berries will be up in a week or so. So it's a really good time to do that. It's also you know, we do feel so strong and fit during this time. And that's why we tend to ignore what we're eating. But don't do that. Don't make that mistake. Just because you're feeling strong, believe me, this whole 6 week time period could be very debilitating if you don't replenish the system that you're draining. This is a great time overall to literally strengthen the body, to take up exercise routines, to be more aware of our physical strength versus our weaknesses, and to try to improve on the body's strength. It's also a time, like I said before, of fortunate actions and a strong ability to accomplish many, many things. The problem is that we can be very lazy because things ultimately could feel like they just seem to flow. But don't take advantage of that. Don't take it for granted. Okay? You got to make sure that you stop and rest. Their tendency to overwork is too great, and the result, accident prone and taking foolish risks. This is a good time, though, to begin new projects, particularly ones that require physical strength. Just don't overdo it. I think that's the real warning here. This is an aspect, though, that in the long term can really bring you dividends. So anything you do work on right now, I think could be very positive. Starting new things right now during this time period will be very positive. So that's a good 6 week run, people. Take advantage. This is an emotionally impulsive and even volatile time. If you do not use this energy, that's what will happen to it. Tempers will flare. And this, though the good news is they will pass, this is like quick energy stuff. But again, it's a reminder to use the energy wisely. What it does do is that it makes it so that some people are going to try to dominate and manipulate other people, and you really have to be aware of that. That restless nature needs an outlet. There's so much courage that comes at this time. You can be so brave and courageous and take risks and do all those things, but you have to be careful because there's this impulsive side too. And even though you have this drive to get things done, you might start too many things and then not be able to finish them. So be aware of that as well. It's a really great time to generate enthusiasm, though. Not only for yourself that you can generate this enthusiasm, but also enthusiasm for other people. But it does make us headstrong, really stubborn, actually, as well as independent. So yeah, I'll just do it on my own, right? There's a whole thing here that talks a lot about plowing over any opposition. Well, that's never a good thing to do. That's how you build resistance, right? And the real danger here is that we need to think before we act. We also, and that's the lesson actually of the whole lineup, is really to think before you act. Now, here's an interesting thing. Mars doesn't think. Jupiter does, but Jupiter's not in the strongest sign. Mars is. So we have to depend on that common sense that we came in here with, and we have to rely on that the next 6 weeks. This can make us more competitive. We just have to be careful of too much ego. Okay, so the next part of what I want to do, and I'm going to change this to a dial. I'm going to take a moment here because I want to pull up my math, which is a whole other page of notes. So we're going to take a moment. I'll be right back. Well, it was a lot easier to come back than I thought. Just that, yeah. A lot easier to come back than I had previously thought because I forgot I'm working with the Aries Point. Numbers are already in my head. That's why they're not written down. But let's talk about these numbers, okay? Because they really do pull in some things that we want to be mindful of. And I know what it was that I have to go get, and I will in a minute. But the first thing I want to look at is we have the Aries Point, and, you know, this is something that is going to happen during this time, because in another couple of weeks in this country, but we will not be the only place, although I think this is going to be of interest to the world. There is going to be news that is going to generate some excitement. How do I know that? Because Zeus, Poseidon, and Uranus are all hanging together with that Mars energy. And I think that it's the news that's going to come out is going to make a lot of people very, very angry. There's also a selfish component here for everybody to look at, which is that Sun Venus. Um, Sun Venus means we're really going to be good at socializing, but it also gives a component here of being, more selfish, more self aware, self oriented, self driven. I guess that's a really good way of putting it. And so, and you could go around here. We have Zeus, uh, which is a little bit above, but it also talks about how by getting people riled up, there is a sense that this is going to help solve problems. Okay. And I do know that's how they're feeling with the January 6th Commission. But Psyche tells us that we are going to be affected by what we hear. And so that's like the first thing I really, really wanted to talk about because I knew that that was taking place during the times. As a matter of fact, that starts on the 9th of June, which is literally today. I do all my videotaping on Tuesdays. That's actually a Thursday. So I think I'm talking about literally a little more than 2 weeks. So we know that we're in there. Now you do want to look at Apollon with Hades, an expansion of deterioration. What's deteriorating? You also want to look at um, things that like that Chronos Volcanus, a lot of pressure on the authorities or related to the authorities. So there's a lot there, a lot. And I'm only getting started because I do want to very, very quickly look at these asteroids very quickly before I go on to Venus, which is ingressing on the 28th of the month. So here we go. Okay, so basically, I have the asteroid list in front of me, and I'm actually going to go back to the beginning because I forgot about this. Okay, so you see Mars is there, Jupiter's right off, right here's Moon. So you see them right there at the top of the dial. A couple of things here. I want to point out because I think this is really going to be credible no matter again where you live in the world, but you have to understand that not is actually up here. So it means that some of the actions that we are doing will not be what we think, okay, or will not. It's a lot about not. And as a result of that, there could be change of directions with some of the goals that we set out to do over the next 6 weeks. Now, I'll give you an example of something very benign. So you're cleaning your house, and during that time, you realize that you have a real issue in one of your rooms. Okay, maybe water damage or something that you maybe it's going to stop you and it's going to make you focus then on that. Now, the interesting thing is it's coming with a vehicle. So it's almost like you're working on your house, but then you have to go to your car. So there's a lot of different ways that this can manifest. But I like the fact that in that Aries point, along with these planets that we've just been discussing, even the ones I talked about with Uranus, Not and Letitius are very active asteroids within that picture, those conversations, if you will. So we want to be mindful. Okay. Now, Not is going to be more around Jupiter. And I think a lot of times it's because we think something's going to be really better than it is, or I don't know. I just think that it's going to be Not is going to be a monkey wrench in a lot of what's happening. Okay, so the other reason why could have a lot to do with the fact that some things are not credible. Something is not credible, or the news that you're learning is going to affect the credibility of certain people. Okay, so they're not credible, even if they come off as credible, they are not. I think that there's going to be a lot of memory jarring during this time, and things that we're going to remember. And as we remember them, and remember that if you're in the United States, there is a January 6th commission going on over this time, that things will get worse. Okay. It's also referring to the fact that this is destined. And as things progress through this next 6 weeks, you know, I can't help but think that if Venus is in one ingress situation going into a very strong place, and now we have Mars already in a strong place, that there isn't a destiny factor at play here. There is. So a lot of this is destined. And sometimes it will seem like it's a little too little and a little too late. That a lot of things are going to come up that we should have known sooner. It is going to get people to wondering and pondering. In other words, it's really going to get people thinking. Things are going to happen that will get us thinking. We're also going to be dealing with some people will be affecting their sleep, but we're also going to realize that a lot of things are going on that are going to make people feel like, was I asleep? Why didn't I know? Okay. And not in there, but sort of in there is be careful of lies. Or maybe that's what a lot of the news is about. I can tell you that what we learned will affect the psyche. Okay, at least here. I don't know what's going on in the rest of the world, but it is definitely going to affect the psyche of matters. It also refers to the fact that it will present chaos on some level. So I think there's going to be a lot going on coming up. There's going to be also this awareness of the self-destruction of certain people and how that self-destruction, and that might be something that we're going to all kind of be dealing with a little bit, is going to be a factor. Yeah, I'm all the way down here. I don't think, it's almost like the truth is setting us free, and there is a win in here, but it does relate to a lot of self-destruction and self-destructive factors that will play out as well. Now, that's all retrograde, but it doesn't make it go away. It makes it just act differently. It also talks about how certain things are ornamental. They're set in front of us to, in some respects, distract from us. We're going to be, and that's also retrograde. So it may be something that we're going to be more aware of. It also refers to the solving of problems, the need to solve problems. And I do believe that through this whole process, though we may have to change some things, it is going to be about solving problems, though it is probably not going to act in the normal way because, again, it is retrograde. I did tell you that eventually it changes things. I keep going back to that because it's a huge factor. And it also might be how we handle business or how businesses are led. So something having to do with businesses. The last factor is that you're going to learn, or we're all going to learn, that you get more by being kind than you do by being mean. And that kindness is going to be a factor in a lot of this. Now, if you notice, I have a different chart up because I want to completely jump into the Venus retrograde as well. I'm sorry, Venus retrograde, Venus ingress. My goodness, where am I? And the Venus ingress actually takes place, it has also some really decisive kind of factors going on here. So I'm going to take a few minutes to look at this. I had debated about doing these as two separate videos, but I decided I'm going to try and put them together. Hopefully it's not too long. If you're somebody that prefers only half-hour videos, you might want to turn the video off now and come back later because I'm actually at that halfway point. Okay, so now I want to talk to you, back to my notes, about the Venus retrograde. And the Venus retrograde is, I keep saying retrograde. I do apologize. We are in a Mercury retrograde and it is strongly affecting me. And so I keep going and using that word retrograde. No, we are in an ingress on the 28th of May. And today is the 24th of May. So in 4 days, we are looking at, and it's 11 o'clock in the morning, the ingress of Venus. Okay? And so, and we can see it. We're going to go look at it. It's going into Taurus. It's at 0 degrees, 0 degrees. On this particular chart, it falls very close to the midheaven. Okay? So it's actually kind of bodes well at the midheaven. You know, people are going to be concerned about in this area, you know, what they look like when they go out. They might be spending money on their appearances, things of that nature. It actually is straddled with Palace, which means people-pleasing skills. You know, you want to be pleasing to people. That's going to be very important. And this is, again, only the Washington area, so I don't want to lay on that too heavy. You can see that Jupiter and Mars are getting even more together at this time, but by the 28th, when Venus goes into Taurus, the moon is already in Taurus. Ironically, the moon is just outside of that Aries point again, which means that the Venus ingress is very strongly connected to the Aries ingress chart by virtue of the moon. Isn't that incredible? I think it's incredible. I mean, I'm an astrologer. I just think that these are days we want to look out for. Here again, another month to 6 weeks is going to be an exciting time for us. All of us, all over the world, regardless of where you live. This particular Venus chart, though, comes with some interesting things. Like, look at this. That Uranus that we just spoke about, okay, is now going to be conjuncting the moon. That means that emotionally, unpredictability, female issues, unpredictable. How people react, unpredictable. Remember, Poseidon also down, you know, here, opposing all of that, but still hanging out at that Aries point, is telling us that there's things that we're learning, we're hearing, that emotionally are going to be very, very upsetting. And I don't care where you are in the world, this is going to occur. Now, in this country, again, we have a January 6th commission coming. So that could be affecting the whole world. And I think it will. I think it will in a very negative way. Okay, I think the world is going to be doing moments. Okay, and I'm not happy to say that. Okay, so we have the sun about 5 degrees away from Adamite, which kind of indicates that we're moving away from that. But there's a perseverance here, you know, with that sun being close to Adamite. Now, because it's such a slow-moving planet, I'm not going to put a lot of importance on it, but it does beg the question, what have we been enduring? It's passing. What have we been enduring? So the node is not far away from the moon. We can go 10 degrees on the moon because of its quick feel, you know, just moves. And they're only 5 degrees away. And so here we go with, you could even, you know, say that there's some connections that will be really important to the people and to the world and to females in general. So that's also going to be a factor for those 6 weeks. I didn't have as many dynamics because we don't have that big lineup like we did when it came into Aries. We do have, this is why this chart not only synced that its timing is that it actually happens after the ingress into Mars, and it's how it's affected so closely to that chart because of the moon, Uranus, and Poseidon all being together still, okay? But, you know, in this particular case, it's moving to 0 degrees of Taurus, which means 0 degrees of fixed. So it's going to be very different as we go for numbers, okay, as we go into this chart, because in actuality, Venus is right here. So you can see that as it reaches 30 degrees of fixed, I'm going to write this down. I think it's written down somewhere else, but I want to make sure I get it. So it's 30 degrees or 0 degrees of fixed. Let's go with that. 15 degrees of mutable. Okay, because that's what this equals. All right, so it's 15 degrees of mutable, any sign. And then your the cardinal, or so we would then go to 2230, okay, fixed, because it would be 2230 away, and it takes us to 7 degrees 30 minutes of a cardinal. Okay, so that's our new dynamics for our new asteroids. And just putting this here, I just, again, quick decisions because of that Mars, uncertainty, the unpredictability causes like chaotic situations. But it also refers, and I'm just going to go back quickly. There isn't on this, and I did note this, there isn't, other than that pride factor and politics that plays around that 30 degrees that I can actually really pick up. Otherwise, there isn't a lot to pick up from this chart. So let me go grab those asteroids. So I wanted to go through this with you. And of course, the very first thing that jumps out at me is not just the fact that Mars is now, our actions are now running directly with naught. We're only 4 days later, but in that time period, naught has come within minutes of, or I should say, Mars has come within minutes of naught. So you have to be careful of the actions that you are putting in motion during this time period. But what's really interesting on the Venus is that Weasley, which is faulty perceptions, has moved into the Aries point. So when all this news comes out and it's the Aries point, there'll be a lot of faulty perceptions about things. So a lot of faulty perceptions might be either uncovered, or we'll be surprised by our faulty perceptions. So anyway, but I want to stay with the math of this particular, which is 0 degrees fixed, 2230 of fixed, 15 degrees of mutable, and 7.5 degrees of cardinal. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of go through here, and we're going to talk about what shows up here. Like, for example, Zeus the asteroid. Remember, Zeus the trans-Neptunian was involved in the conversation that we had with Mars. Well, Zeus the asteroid, so that's inflammation. Watch it, people who are diabetic. You got a Venus with a Zeus. We're talking about inflammation from sugar. Please be careful what you're eating. Realize that sugar is a great inflammation factor. Okay? We have to recognize that as we go through it. So you have Zeus. You also have in here, not far, there's a lot of temptations with Venus. So you start feeling bad, start feeling sorry for yourself, you're going to want to go shopping. Watch that. Watch it. Okay? One of the things that is highlighted with this Venus is that there's a lot going on that we don't know about. And I think that changes over the next month to 6 weeks, so we want to be alerted to that with that Calypso, that there's a lot we don't know, okay? It's also referring to, that you want to take care of yourself. It is talking about health issues. Now, on a personal level, please be mindful of your health. On a bigger level, we could still be hearing about monkeypox and coronavirus, because it is disease is definitely in there, okay, with Venus. And they don't know enough in some respects, so you have to be mindful. There also is, as we get into this, I do believe that like things get worse. Okay, I think that knot is going to play such a large role in what's going on in some respects. Now, it doesn't mean that the economy gets worse because I don't think that's what it is. I think it has to do with information, unpredictability, and anger, shootings, and things like that. So we have a lot of issues that we have to deal with in that realm. One of the things that you want to be mindful of is look at the reactions on people's faces. That I think that's going to tell us a lot. Faces shows up a lot. So I don't know if we're going, some places are going back to mask coverings. I don't know what that means. I just know faces are huge, unless that's where people are spending money, getting skincare done or face care done, or, that is a possibility for real. It also refers to stopping something. There's urge during this time to stop something. Okay, and I think that has a lot to do with what we're hearing during this time period. It also refers to body image and to, body image. And, there is something here about losers. And I don't know what that means. It's not really in there. It's in there, but it's not really in there, and it's retrograde. Ballstrom. Oh, that's also talking incessantly. I'm sorry. So incessant talking. There's going to be something about talking. So as I headed back into fixed, one of the things it says that you can do for yourself is at times you might want to withdraw. It will feel very oppressive. What's going on at times will feel oppressive. You really do want to brace yourself. There could be some big falls taking place. Fall, whatever that means. Some people, it might mean literally. They have to be careful of falls. Other people will fall from grace. It is retrograde. It will not act normal, and that's why I said fall from grace. You want to also, there's going to be a lot of nostalgia, remembering back. A lot of history in this, okay, as it's moving out of. It's also referring to knowledge again. Here we go, Poseidon the asteroid. So you've got Zeus and Poseidon still in the Venus, not the same ones. We went from the trans-Neptunians to the asteroids, which are read the same way. So it's really interesting how these two connected, which is why I felt so strongly about doing them together. The other things I want to talk about is you definitely, we need to look at some very self-destructive and humiliating behavior that's been going on and how it relates to money. I think that's true in the whole world. I think bad things have been happening in the name of money. And I think that that's going to start to come to people's attention. And it's, you're also going to realize that lies, this is a midpoint, okay? But lies are ongoing. And the damage by lies, or the fact that lies have been able to continue on as long as they have been, not so good. It's a midpoint that's formed between, I should say this, lie and Astrea. Like we're being lied to what we're being told, seeing, or what you're seeing. So it's like people are trying to lie about what you're seeing. But Astrea is also talking about how lies have made things go on longer than they should. So Astrea, when you find no solutions, lies make it very difficult to find solutions. So I'm not going to say anything more about Venus. I could, but I'm not going to. I really wanted to show more how the two charts connected, how they're going to affect all of us with the coming events. So here we go. So I'm back. And I just want to say goodbye. I did a good job. I kept it in frame. I do my notes ahead of time, so sometimes I know approximately how long a video should last, and I did it. So I'm kind of doing a little gloating moment. My next video will be on the new moon. That'll come out on Friday. But in the interim, I just want to say thank you for watching the video. Please comment, share, especially if you're somebody who, studies astrology, knows a little bit about astrology, and has a comment to add. If you're somebody who's learning the asteroids, those people in particular, I love hearing from you guys. So I just am one of those people who's very excited about the asteroids. I've been an asteroid astrologer for almost 30 years, and it has changed everything about how I look at astrology. And I'm hoping that by my inclusion of the asteroids in the ingress charts, that you too were able to learn more about these little rocks and how they can affect us. With that said, I'm going to leave you as I always do. That until we meet again, I wish you only happy readings. Take care. See you next time.